12:57 comes over time, and of course we are on the red hot seat. We're chilling in the studio with Mr. Setlhomo, Raymond, Tshwanelang. So there's a particular situation right now that's going on, and in March we're going to be reaching 100 days of the new UDC government being in power, right? So far, what's your take on the performance of the UDC government in comparison to the BDP?
Well, the BDP, the reason why it was voted out, it was because it failed Botswana. Not just in the last 5 years, but for the last 58 years. Botswana had been failed. The country had been failed. So I think that alone, or the UDC winning the elections on its own, it means that Botswana wanted the UDC. It means that Botswana had confidence, or still have confidence in the UDC. Today, or right now as we speak, the Choppies group is launching their 4,000 minimum wage scheme.
Yes.
The CEO announced a few minutes ago that that will reflect from tomorrow for those who had been working in the last 12 months with the company, and others it would start mid-year. So that's a progress. It means UDC is already ticking its box for one of the many promises that they made to the country. Remember that the former party, or the former ruling party, always believed that it was impossible, that Botswana cannot, and that would ruin the economy, that would lead to all sorts of excuses, because in their minds and thoughts was that a man who is underpaid, it's easier to control, it's easier to buy with anything, but someone who is empowered, meaning financially, you can't control them. You have to sell them policies. The BDP had no policy to sell to the country or Botswana. All they had was promises, empty promises, and literally distorting the reality. Unemployment skyrocketed under the BDP. I think 32% of the youth are unemployed. We are speaking of over 34,000 unemployed graduates in Botswana. And not just unemployed, but some of them are underemployed. You'd find someone with a degree being paid as far as 2.5, 3.5. Then you ask yourself, how are they able to pay rent? How are they able to afford certain things? So you realize that the BDP on its own enjoyed it when they were able to control the people by giving them little than what they are worthy or what they deserve. And we have lost quite a number of talented Botswana. Some of them were forced into migration, or we were literally going to have what is called sort of pool drain, whereby we would have lost talent in Botswana. Doctors, nurses, engineers, some of them have had to migrate to UK, Ireland, and Australia and Canada. So I believe that what the UDC has started, it's more like a revolution. We are going to see more companies pledging to pay people. Eventually, of course, it will be the law mandating employers to pay 4,000. And what that means basically is that once people are paid 4,000, those who had been lowly paid, is that those who have been paid 5,000 or 6,000, their salaries would have to also increase. So it's more like closing the gap, but starting from the top, the downward, because what has happened with the BDP was that they would say 10% increment, 12%, 15%. With that 12%, 15% increment of salary, it meant that a CEO, a mid-role person, their 12% meant something. But those at the lower end of things, or lower end bracket, sometimes it's just the 200, 300 puller difference, but someone is 3,000 difference. So the UDC is trying to close that gap. There is so much poverty gap in Botswana. There is so much inequality in Botswana. Botswana is one of the countries in the world with the highest inequality gap in the world. So once we close that gap, then we can then talk about poverty eradication, or just because you can't eradicate poverty. Even Jesus himself failed to eradicate poverty. So we can only reduce poverty. So we believe that if the 4,000 as Choppies has started, and many other companies would follow, and then the law would come in place, then it's one of the things. So then it goes into other issues. The other issue right now, last week, the Minister of Labor, Raymond, accepted the petition from unemployed teachers and temporary teachers. So, and one of the pledges is that from now going forward, they won't renew or approve foreign hires permits, because I think to me it was an injustice to have foreigners working as teachers in Botswana when we have thousands who are qualified and experienced but not working. So the market is already saturated. So when the market is saturated, you have to introduce what is called ban, because that's not a skill that we need. We already have that skill en masse. So I think that's a good step. So we are hoping that in a year or 6 months time we'd see more Botswana working who are teachers qualified, not home. And then we are hoping that we'd see even crime reducing. We are also hoping to see even drugs and alcohol abuse even going down, because Gaborone is one of those that is so much consumed by drug use.
Right.
Like there are so many drugs, and then corruption as well. We hope that the government is taking steps to ensure that corruption is dealt with.
See, right. I've seen some exchanges between you and Ska. What's the beef with Ska, Kante?
Well, even though I feel like I'm continuously giving that clown an undeserved attention, but well, Ska has provoked me many times, and since I think 2 to 3 years ago, over 50 times, but I ignored him because to me he was irrelevant. To me he wasn't worth my attention until recent, whereby now I felt like it was time I responded to him. The problem with Ska is that people that I had critiqued in the past, they are, I'd say, people who, when they see him in some of this franchise, they buy him this cheap alcohol and this fake Hennessy's and stuff. So I think he's bidding for them. He's their eyes boy. So he felt like some form of protection, that he's their, I'd say, lapdog. He's their attack dog. So he felt like maybe it's in their interest to be seen defending them when those have their mouth and hands to defend themselves. So that's how, but eventually it escalated in recent, where I had litigation with Cedar. And he was one of those who were happy that, has silenced him and blah, blah, because I think it's because he's not intelligent enough to know that a cease and desist order does not in itself mean much if what you said is the truth. And then Cedar lost. I humiliated them. And even the protest, he said that people ain't gonna come. He wasn't aware that I have held multiple protests before, successful ones. So once again, I humiliated him. I lost my child on the 30th or some sort of, and he was again celebrating. So that shows that a 40-year-old hopeless man is picking up a fight with someone who is over or 10 years younger than him, when he's supposed to be picking up a fight with his age mates or those who are better than him in terms of, he's 40, his age mates are living in Setlhomo, living in Pakalani, and everything that he can never dream of. So instead of maybe being bitter towards those, he simply attacked me. But what I want is a better life, not just for Botswana, but including Ska himself. If Botswana was better society, he could be a better person. His music would have brought in massive revenues. But the problem in Botswana is that we have a system that was meant to ensure that others are poor, including Ska himself. So I'm fighting for him. But as they always say, that when you fight for a black man, always keep the other hand for defending yourself against them. So he's literally fighting for someone who's fighting them. If it was during the times of the Bible, I would say like he's no different from those who stoned Jesus. But I'm not Jesus, I'm a sinner myself. So I don't know why he's fighting me. But that, however, is expected. Even in any struggle, in anything that has occurred in the past, even during apartheid struggle, there were black people who hated Mandela, who wanted to fight him, wanted to kill him. Others killed Chris Hani, someone who is fighting, literally fighting for them. So I think also when you look at, maybe when he looks at his life and he looks at mine, he sees that this young man, maybe he has done something or he continued to do something that he himself failed during his time as an artist. Right now we have seen other young artists who have always stood for principle, who had always stood for right things. including Drama Boy. He had always been against injustice, even in their songs they spoke about. And then there's this gentleman who is also a rapper, I forgot his name, Tshwanelang, whatever, Lote, I forgot, he's a rapper. He has also been sort of active. He has also used his music to call for change, to call for better things. But he had always been more of a puppet to the government that was then. So he had always relied on crumbs to survive. You see, but when you stand up for what you believe is right, when you stand up for your principle, they easily get intimidated and offended. So I think he's offended, but I wish him well. I have nothing against him. He's not my target. He's not, I would say, he's irrelevant in my books. Even if I were to attack him, he won't bring the change that I desire, unfortunately. He has failed for the last 40 years of his miserable life. So I'm looking for people who would facilitate change economically, politically, and socially. And that Scar and other few folks, I would stop at nothing to make sure that my message is sent and is clear. And now, lastly, some of the people actually, even the people around CEDA, from the brand ambassador and all those people, some of them who recently attacked me, most of them had, even including the lawyer CEDA, they had been to Scar's podcast. So that says a lot. It shows that his podcast, it's to me a crime scene. That's whereby all white-collar criminals convene, and I hope someday when he's hosting whatever, the DCEC would raid them and arrest them. Literally, that's whereby all these criminalities could be found, or traces of whatever that they're doing. So I'm not much bothered by him.
All right, very respectable response if you ask me, right? So not too long ago, you rallied some Botswana up for a protest against the UNSCEDA, the Citizen Entrepreneurial Development Agency. And now the most recent result that we've seen and that probably emanated from that is that the CEO of CEDA, Thabo Thamani, has been suspended by the parastatal. What is the feeling about this? What is the reflection on this, especially now that seemingly one of the goals that had been the desired goal has been achieved?
They always say a little too late. We say it's a little too late. It's been 2 months and a half since we submitted the petition. In any form of an investigation or a protest or a cry, if someone can be in the office for 2 months and they've been accused of a litany of offenses, within that 2 months, they will try by all means to clean up their debt or whatever the accusations leveled against them. So it is a little bit too late. And mind you, part of our protest was that one of the petition was that he has to be suspended, the board has to be suspended, the brand ambassador has to be suspended. So right now, you suspend him, you still leave another corrupt board in place. So to me, it's a little bit too late. To me, the path that was taken was like suspending someone. You don't need to take 2 months. It's a suspension pending investigation to ensure that the investigations are well respected, to ensure that they are not polluted. But when you leave them in the office, it somehow leads to them to pollute. Like right now, there has been so much changes, including right now there has been so much recent appointments within CEDA. Not just appointments, even the policies in place, they have reviewed it to suit them, such that if their things are to be terminated or whatever their employment was to end, they have something, they are cushioned. So there has been a lot of things, bogus and everything done that to me I felt like the minister or then permanent secretary, because I think I'm thankful of the current permanent secretary, the new one. He started, I think, this month, and that gentleman, we had a meeting with him a week before the suspension of the CEO, and to me he was inviting. He understood our pain, that you cannot investigate someone while they're still in office, especially that office that can influence even the investigation themselves. Right now we've had Botswana Land Board, whereby Kang, who is the chairman, has been suspended. Botswana Ash, the CEO, has been suspended. In any investigation, the person who is involved, even my policy today, if I'm being accused of something, they either arrest me for temporary or deny me bail and then ensure that the scene is not contaminated. So to me, it's going to be a mammoth task ahead of them in terms of the investigation, the forensic audit. I do not also expect much from it, really. I think by now, the path that they have taken, any person who understands investigations or audit will tell you that it's going to be a very difficult task for them.
Definitely. I think to some extent I agree that, hey, there's people that I would never ever try to poke. There's bears saying, what you really don't want that smoke, man. You really don't want that smoke. And I think Mr. Tshwanelang is one of those people, you prefer to stay on the good side of his books. So all right, man, as we wrap it up, there's a very contentious issue that's going on right now, but the case involving the vice president and the minister of finance, Mr. Ndabakaolate, and a company called CMB. Is this a case that should make us reconsider our appointment of Mr. Kaolate?
Well, I'm not much familiar with the merits of the case, but I think that he has tried to offer an explanation on that, saying that his client had done the job and that it's more like he was contracted by another agency, not the other one. So it's a very complex one. I do not think, however, that it has anything to do with his vice presidency. Ndaba has always been an honorable man, a man that brings a hope and a new face to change. I mean, having Ndaba versus having Raslamba Zohwani, definitely you'd go for Ndaba. I mean, to me, honesty, he's someone that I think he inspires many of us. So on his case, I'm not much familiar with the merits, but I do not think that they would in any how or in any way affect his performance. If they, however, people who feel otherwise, then they are free to take necessary actions or petition him or whatever that they feel. But personally, I do not think that he has done any crimes. And most of that, he wasn't even the vice president at that time. We did not vote him based on anything. It would have, however, been a shock if those allegations started when he was the vice president. That thing has been there even before he was the vice president. So I believe also that given how brutal the former government or the previous administration was, if he had done any criminality, they would have charged him. They would have ensured that he's severely dealt with. So if they couldn't even charge him, then it tells me that there is no case against him. But I might be wrong.
All right, just before we wrap it up, we like to play a game with some of the guests that we have on the show. Maybe talk about the tongue twister, and I don't know if today, but we happen to have the necessary material to do it. Right, Mr. Smosh, are you ready? All right.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what's going on? No, it's okay. I think we can just use one paper for today, right? This one is called tongue twisters, Mr. Setlhomo. It's basically a tricky sentence. We try to assess whether you can read, right? I guess it will be a competition between me and you. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's go for the first one.
Yeah. I'll take the first one.
So should I read?
Yeah, read it aloud as fast as you can. It's a tongue twister.
One go.
Tell Tom, the ticket taker, to take the ticket to the ticket wicket.
That's a point.
Yeah. I think this is one of the best we've ever had.
Second one.
All right, let me try. Imagine an imaginary.
Minus one.
Yeah.
Third one.
Our setup.
Yeah, no, sorry.
33 thieves thought that they thrilled the throne throughout Thursday. Freezy Breezy made these 3 trees freezy. While these fleas flew, Freezy Breezy blew. How many sheets could a sheet slider slit if a sheet slider could slit the shit?
Come on, man.
It just hit you.
I'm in danger today. Yeah. Okay, let me try. How many sheets could a sheet slitter slit if a sheet slitter could slit the sheet? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's 3-2.
No, man, today's ones were tricked against me, but it's okay. All right, as we wrap it up, I think this is one of the questions I've always wanted to ask you, particularly, especially considering the work that you do, the amount of dedication that you put your heart on the line for many Botswana out there and their rights, right? What would you like to be remembered as by the time your demise comes? What would you like Mr. Setlhomo Raymond Tshwanelang to be in the eyes of Botswana by Masala before?
Well, I'm gonna even say this in my mother tongue so that it can be engraved even when I'm gone. Ke batla gore motlhang e morena mpitsang ke ya le nna ko legaeng la rona la Kanana ba ba selang e bang kgakologela gore yona monana kana monna mogolo o ne a dumela mo go sa neng a dumela mo go sone ebile o na seemela ebile o na eletsa gore Botswana o ka nna le hatshe le nte le hatshe la bothe le hatshe le leng gore ga gore ha o tsena go to ngwana ga mang kana ona le eng le hatshe le leng gore motho mongwe le mongwe o hiwa tota motho mongwe le mongwe e leng gore ha na le bokgoni o hiwa an opportunity gore a merit based society e senya bolope e senya maka e senya go dira dilo tse di sa nnang sente a society that is free a society that is vocal and vibrant ke batla gore le nna e re ke tsamaya ke ithele like I want to live this country better than I found it when I came. So that should be how I will be remembered, or I wish to be remembered. However, people will remember me in different ways of how I touched their lives, but I believe that we should all leave this country better than how we found it, better so that our great grandkids can inherit it in a better state.
Beautiful stuff. Is politics something that might be included in your future endeavors?
No. I think I would probably enjoy myself somewhere in Havana, somewhere in Greece, and I just want to be fine, enjoying my life. Politics in Botswana is not politics of policy or anything. It's just the politics of Botswana not willing or open to progress. So I don't think I would suit Botswana politics. I won't even last that much longer. So I prefer just to be in the backdrop and then eventually just to go and enjoy my life in the Caribbean or Europe and be far from here.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you so much, Mr. Stone, for joining us today. It's been nothing less than a pleasure and an honor to host someone we know how much the impact has really done well for the lives of Botswana. In you, I see a future president, but if that's not how you want to go, then I guess it's okay.
Yeah, maybe my kids will be president. So.